let's discuss set point elevation due to processed or junk food. So first, let's define what processed food is, or junk food as it's more commonly called. So first, junk food is created by chemists, not chefs. And chemists use chemicals like xanthan gum and sorbitol and all kinds of ingredients that when you read that label of what's in the food and you don't understand what it is, it's not because you're not smart. It's because these are chemicals that are not used. We're looking for foods that are made from ingredients that you might possibly have in your home. If it has onions, if it has peppers, if it has fruit or vegetables or nuts or seeds or beans, any of these foods that we recognize, these are the foods that we should be eating. These are what a chef cooks with. A chef cooks with ingredients that we recognize and we know. They do not use chemicals. So a chemist is who uses chemicals. So when the food is made primarily of chemicals, it was made by a chemist, and that's what we're looking to avoid. Another good rule is that it tastes like something it is not. For instance, a Dorito tastes like a taco, but a Dorito is not a taco. So the artificial flavors that are in food are so damaging and hijack our food cravings and our ability to sense when we've eaten enough, and essentially sidetrack the entire functioning of our metabolic thermostat. Is really critical that we get them out of our diet if we're going to succeed over the long run. Another criteria that makes something a processed food is that it has a shelf life that's much longer than most foods. When you buy food, if you buy some fruit, you've got to eat that fruit usually within a few days or it's going to go bad. If you have something that's been in your pantry for 6 months, unrefrigerated, and you can take a bite of it and it tastes just the same as the day you bought it, this is a processed food. There is no natural food that has that ability, or very, very few natural foods. Finally, it's intended to be eaten as a snack food and heavily marketed as one. And oftentimes they'll talk about how much you crave this food, or you can't stop thinking about this food. And any foods with a large marketing budget, in fact, for most of these foods, the marketing budget is larger than the production budget. And they spend more money trying to sell it than they do actually making it. Any of these things are going to be processed food, and the things that we should be avoiding. So why are processed foods so fattening? First, the refined carbohydrate triggers a significant amount of insulin release, and insulin causes weight gain and causes set point elevation. Second, they're addictive. So let's kind of break those down one by one. So first, let's talk about the insulin and why it's released so much more from junk food than it is from more natural foods. So most of the junk food that's out there is made of processed carbohydrates. And so when you eat this and you start your day with some processed carbohydrates, these foods are rapidly absorbed within the first 1, 2, 3 feet of our small intestine. Our small intestine is about 20 feet long. So there are some foods, even like beans, which aren't even, the carbohydrate isn't even completely absorbed throughout the entire 20 feet. So when it's absorbed over those first 1 to 2 feet, we see this rapid spike in our blood sugar. And when our blood sugar goes up, we feel happy and we feel full. Just ask a diabetic about blood sugar and how they feel at different blood sugar levels. Diabetics measure their blood sugar on almost several times a day, and as a result, they have a good sense of what it takes and how you feel when you have certain blood sugar levels. And what they'll tell you is when their blood sugar's up a little bit, they're generally feeling pretty good. What happens when our blood sugar's up is that our body responds by releasing insulin, and a rapid spike up in the blood sugar level typically causes a rapid release of insulin. So we release a lot of insulin because the blood sugar really shot up. And what happens is, the result is our blood sugar drops not just back to normal, but below normal. We've talked about feedback loops, and this is really one of them. But in this case, because it's such a strong stimulus, it's causing it to kind of overshoot, and it'll eventually make its way back to normal if we give it a chance. But what you'll find is when your blood sugar is low, you feel the opposite of when it's high. You become irritable and hungry. And of course, what's right in front of you? More junk food. And so we start the cycle all over again. And many people ride this roller coaster 4, 5, 6 times a day and never get reasonable control of their blood sugar. And they're driven to eat by hypoglycemia. And when you're driven to eat by hypoglycemia as opposed to real hunger, you're going to overeat. You're going to take in more calories than your body would normally take in. So remember this set point. If you eat a little bit of junk food and gain some weight and your body weight increases, normally your hunger is going to decrease and it's going to help you drift back to that set point. But when you're eating as a result of hypoglycemia, then it hijacks this decreased hunger signal that we would normally see, and we ignore it. And the net result is that over time, your body weight keeps going up and up and up. And as your body weight goes up and up and up, essentially your set point creeps up behind it. And the longer you're at a certain body weight, the more established and firm your set point becomes at that weight. Now, there's, I think, an important thing to discuss in terms of junk food, and the most damaging of all junk food is sugar-sweetened beverages. And while most of us think of soda pop as sugar-sweetened beverage, fruit juice really falls into the same category in my mind. I don't see a huge nutritional difference between orange juice and Coca-Cola. And while there is some vitamins and minerals in orange juice, and maybe the tiniest bit of fiber, it does have a slight advantage, but it contains almost as much sugar as Coca-Cola does and has essentially the same nutritional effects. Sports drinks. The folks at Gatorade and Powerade are marketing geniuses. They realize people like drinking sugary beverages. People like to feel like they're athletic. And somehow, if they could convince you that drinking a sugar-sweetened beverage makes you more athletic, they could sell a lot of product. And that's exactly what they did. They linked it to the football team, the Florida Gators. That's where Gatorade came from. And they've, over the years, convinced us all that if we drink Gatorade, we're going to perform like athletes, and that high-performing athletes require Gatorade. The truth is, very few of us are high-performing athletes, but we all drink Gatorade thinking it's healthy, thinking it's going to make us perform well in athletics, when it's really just a sugary liquid, not that much different from Coca-Cola. A sugar-sweetened beverage that I discuss with my patients frequently is coffee creamer. And a lot of times patients will say to me, you know, Dr. Weiner, is that coffee creamer that I have, it's just a little bit, is that really going to make that big of a difference? I say, well, let's break this down. How much do you put in each cup of coffee? I put about 1.5 ounces. Okay, 1.5 ounces. So how many cups of coffee do you have a day? I have 2 cups of coffee per day. You have it every day? Yeah, pretty much have it every day. All right, so let's do the math on this. This is over 1,000 ounces per year, which amounts to about 70 pounds of coffee creamer per year. So I say, all right, let's rethink this. Do you think 70 pounds of coffee creamer every year could somehow contribute to weight gain? And we all recognize that it absolutely could. Sweet tea and lemonade, also 2 common summertime drinks that we often underestimate how much sugar is in them. And then finally, energy drinks like Red Bull and Monster. Again, people love drinking sugar-sweetened beverages, and if we can link it to energy, increased energy level, which who doesn't want more energy, then we can sell a lot of products. And again, this is the common marketing technique. Whether it's sports performance or increased energy, we somehow link a sugar-sweetened beverage to this concept of better sports performance or more energy and sell product. And the end result is it just makes us gain a tremendous amount of weight. So what happens with sugar-sweetened beverages and why they're so dangerous compared to other foods are that our bodies interpret them as liquids, not as food. So we really have two buckets. We've got a thirst bucket and we've got a hunger bucket. And what happens is if we eat, let's say, a cookie's not a great choice, usually has a similar number of calories to a sugar-sweetened beverage, but if we eat a cookie, it will address our hunger. And when we go to eat the next time, we're going to actually eat a little bit less because we ate that cookie. Even though a cookie's not a great food for us to be eating, our body understands a cookie. It understands calories in a solid food. However, when we drink soda pop, what happens is it just fills that thirst category. Our body doesn't understand calories in a thin liquid like soda pop. So the result of us drinking a Coca-Cola is that we're not as thirsty anymore. But it doesn't do anything in the hunger category. So if we drink a Coca-Cola, we get a similar number of calories to the cookie, but then when we sit down for our meal or we eat next, we completely ignore the calories we've just consumed in the Coca-Cola. So what happens is that our regular hunger and our ability to sense the calories that we consume and adjust the amount of food that we eat because of previous calorie consumption is completely ignored when you drink soda pop. It just slides right around our normal mechanism for maintaining our appetite and our hunger and a sense of fullness. So now let's talk about addiction, because processed foods are absolutely addictive. So first, addiction is best treated by complete avoidance. And these foods are designed to be craved and desired. They're focus group tested. These companies have decades and decades of experience. Many of them evolved from the tobacco industry, learned a ton about addiction and selling addictive products from that, and have now migrated into the processed food space where they're essentially free from regulation and able to use the same tactics. So if you're listening to this and say, you know what, for me, potato chips, I'm definitely addicted. And oftentimes when I talk to patients, they can name that one food, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Doc, I'm addicted to Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. We have to address that like any other addiction. And the treatment for addiction is abstinence, avoidance. We have to get that food out of your diet. There are some medications, and this is one time, I don't use a lot of medications in my practice, but sometimes I will use some medications to help people get over the hump. It's not something we put you on for a long period of time, but if we can get you further out, because addictive thoughts decrease over time. So if I can give you 2 or 3 months free of addiction of these addictive thoughts, get you off the potato chips or the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, get them out of your life, and get you in a place where you can start to make food choices where you're not driven by the calling of that bag of potato chips that's sitting in your pantry, then you're going to have some success. So really, processed foods, weight loss success is going to require eliminating processed foods. It's often difficult for the first few weeks, but over time, you will develop less of a taste for these foods. Really, junk foods work in 2 mechanisms. The first is they increase your insulin, and the second is through addiction. And both of these things work to elevate your set point and cause you to gain a significant amount of weight over time. And we're really only going to find success if we can get them out of our diet. And what you'll find is that it can be tough, but after a few weeks, the thoughts decrease and it's totally possible. I think a final note is to be wary of processed diet foods or what I call organic junk food. And this organic junk food is really a growing industry where they're just kind of swapping out, say, high fructose corn syrup with brown rice syrup. And they may make it gluten-free by using a rice flour instead of a wheat flour. And they're just kind of playing and using the same old tricks, but they're using organic ingredients. And it doesn't, just because it's organic, it doesn't make it any less of a processed food. And so be very wary of that. That organic label does not give it a clean slate.